Negotiate for results. Transform yes into that's right. No is often the starting point, not the end point of a negotiation. We tend to avoid the word no, fearing its implications. However, no is more frequently a statement of perception than a definitive fact. It rarely indicates a rational, thoroughly considered decision. Rather, no is frequently a temporary choice to maintain the status quo. Change can be daunting, and no provides a sense of protection from that uncertainty. By giving the other party permission to say no from the outset, the negotiating environment becomes more constructive and collaborative. People will fight to preserve their right to decline, so acknowledging that upfront can yield better results. At the core, the desire for autonomy is a fundamental human need. People require a sense of control. By preserving the other party's autonomy and clearly granting permission to say no, the emotional dynamic shifts. This creates a more effective decision-making environment where the counterpart can objectively consider the proposal. With the right to decline established up front, the other party feels empowered to thoroughly examine the change you're proposing. This allows you the time to elaborate on the advantages and potentially pivot the offer to make it more enticing than maintaining the status quo. Acknowledging the autonomy imperative and willingly ceding the no option calms the emotions and enables a more constructive, collaborative negotiation. Politely receiving or delivering a no can have a positive impact, reducing barriers and enabling beneficial communication. No does not signify failure. Used strategically, it can open the path forward. Overcoming the fear of the word no is a pivotal milestone for any negotiator. If no is the primary concern, you can become handcuffed to yes and unable to negotiate. To negotiate successfully, one must reframe the interpretation of no. Rather than viewing it as outright rejection, no can signify a range of alternative meanings, such as, I am not yet ready to agree. You are making me feel uncomfortable. I do not understand. I don't think I can afford it. I want something else. I need more information. I want to talk it over with someone else. Training oneself to hear no this way, rather than a simple refusal, is a crucial step. It allows the negotiator to respond accordingly and find constructive paths forward, rather than viewing no as the end of the discussion. After receiving a no response, the skilled negotiator should pause and then pivot to solution-focused questions. What about this proposal doesn't work for you? What would you need to make this work for you? Alternatively, the negotiator can simply acknowledge the underlying issue. It seems like there's something here that is bothersome to you. Recognizing that people have a fundamental need to exercise their right to say no, the negotiator should create the space for the other party to voice that response. This upfront acknowledgement of their autonomy can help calm emotions and open the door to more collaborative problem solving. It's important to recognize that there are three distinct types of yes responses in negotiations. 1. Counterfeit yes. The counterpart plans to ultimately say no, but uses yes as an easier exit or to gather more information. 2. Confirmation yes. A reflexive affirmation, often in response to a binary question without any true commitment. 3. Commitment yes. A genuine agreement that leads to tangible action, such as a signed contract. The skilled negotiator must learn to discern between these three varieties of yes, as the commitment yes is the true objective. The similar sounding responses can be difficult to differentiate, requiring careful analysis of the counterpart's intent and actions. Bob the salesman got out of bed, his face showing determination. He knew today was the day, the moment he had been getting ready for. Looking in the mirror, adjusting his nice suit, Bob felt powerful. He had practiced his getting to yes strategies. He pictured the charts and graphs that would impress the other person, leaving them no choice but to say yes to him. Bob's confidence grew with each passing minute, sure of his triumph. But Bob will fail. This approach centered on his own desires and needs. The people on the other side of the table would quickly pick up on his self-serving attitude, and they would make the calculated decision to simply say yes, not because they were convinced by his arguments, but because it was the easiest way to get away from this conversation. This is a counterfeit yes. They'll escape later, claiming changing conditions, budget issues, the weather. For now, they just want to be released because Bob isn't convincing them of anything. He's only convincing himself. I once was trapped with the second form of yes. A telemarketer tried to sell me a water filtration system. He started with this question: do you enjoy a nice glass of water? Of course the answer is yes, but I was definitely not interested in a product. In fact, all I wanted to do was get off the phone. After a question like that, you just know the rest of the phone call is going to be a drag. This is a perfect example of the confirmation yes. It is believed that if someone says yes consciously to a bunch of questions, then they are agreeing with you. This is not so. They must say yes in their animal mind to agree with you, not logically. Logically, it has been done so many times to us, we become immune or even defensive. The last and most valuable yes is the commitment type yes. This is the yes you give when you are on board with the plan. The problem is that yes must be born of their own will. It cannot be forced. So the question becomes how to turn your wants into their will so that they can give you a commitment type yes. True change often requires one person to fully accept the other as they are, an approach known as unconditional positive regard. However, most people grow accustomed to the idea that love, praise, and approval are contingent on saying and doing what others deem appropriate. Given that the positive regard we typically experience is conditional, we develop a habit of concealing our thoughts and motives. Instead, we choose our words to gain approval while disclosing little of our true nature. Overcoming the tendency to mask our genuine selves is a challenging but necessary step toward real change. Full acceptance removes all of our defenses and leaves us open to suggestions as we subconsciously accept that the other person has our best interest at heart. Consider the typical patient suffering from hypertension. The doctor advises the patient, medicine isn't a cure. The only way to truly prolong your life is to make the following behavior changes. The patient readily agrees. Yes, 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 of course, doctor, I will change. However, study after study has shown that in reality, nothing changes. 2 years after the operation, more than 90% of patients have not altered their lifestyle at all. This pattern demonstrates the gap between expressed intentions and actual follow-through. The conditional nature of most social interactions inhibits the deep, lasting change that requires unconditional acceptance and support. The "that's right" breakthrough usually doesn't come at the beginning of a negotiation. It's invisible to the other person when it occurs, and they embrace what you've said. To them, it will be like you had an epiphany. Steps to get into "that's right." 1. Effective pauses. Silence is powerful. Use it for emphasis, to encourage the other person to keep talking until eventually, like clearing out a swamp, the emotions will drain from the dialogue. 2. Minimal encouragers. Besides silence, use simple phrases such as yes, okay, or I see to effectively convey that you are paying full attention to all they had to say. 3. Mirroring. Rather than argue, listen and repeat back what is said. 4. Labeling. Give feelings a name and identify with how they felt. 5. Paraphrase. Repeat what is said back to them in your own words. This would confirm to them that you really do understand and aren't merely parroting. 6. Summarize. A good summary is the combination of re-articulating the meaning of what is said, plus the acknowledgement of the emotions underlying that meaning. Anyone faced with a good summary would respond, "That's right." Now you have their buy-in. Now you have accepted them. They are subconsciously open for your suggestions. These suggestions will form the seeds to your desired outcome, and you will get a commitment. Yes, that's right is a winning strategy in all negotiations. But hearing "you're right" is a disaster. "You're right" is the same as a counterfeit. Yes, it works every time. Tell people you're right and they get a happy smile on their face and leave you alone. But you haven't agreed to their position. You have used your right to get them to quit bothering you. In the next section, we will go over ways to tie all this together into winning combinations.